Welcome back to my channel. I'm Timil. If you're new here, I am a spiritual advisor, a leadership coach, and a healing artist. And I channel messages about the energy shifts in the astrology, just so that we can keep sacred time. It helps to guide us in our life, and I'm happy that you're here. I'm going to be channeling full moon messages for my members in another video. You can learn more about the membership in the description. But what we're doing today is doing a reading that was downloaded to me to read to us from The Source of Self-Regard by Toni Morrison, our ancestress. And I'm going to be reading out of the essay that the book is titled For The Source of Self-Regard. And it is because of the energy that we're sitting in. We are still in Leo season, shifting into Virgo season. Mercury has just it's still retrograde, but has moved from Virgo into Leo, and the full moon is in Aquarius. And this is really about who we are, what we think about who we are, our worthiness, where we feel we belong, what it is that our heart desires. And in order for us to effectuate, is the word that I'm hearing, the desires of our heart, we do have to have a sense of regard for ourselves. And if we don't, we can do the work towards those things. And so I'm not going to be reading the whole essay. I encourage that you do, but I am, if you have the book, open to page 317. And I'm going to start with the last paragraph on page 317. It is a part, this view, looking at that period in Black life, of a rather sustained investigation I began with Beloved, which was that I'm really looking at self-regard in both racial and gender terms, and how that self-regard evolves or is distorted or flourishes, or collapses, and under what circumstances. In Beloved, I was interested in what contributed most significantly to a slave woman's self-regard. What was her self-esteem? What value did she place on herself? And I became convinced, and research supported my hunch, my intuition, that it was her identity as a mother. Her ability to be and to remain exactly what the institution said she was not, that was important to her. Moving into Reconstruction and beyond it, as difficult as it was to function as a mother with control over the destiny of one's children, it still became then certainly a legal responsibility after slavery. So this is where the sources of self-regard came from Margaret Garner or Seth. And it is exaggerated because it's that important and that alien and that strange and that vital. This is Aquarius energy, right? Like, what is so important? I feel like the camera's a little crooked. Sorry about that. I think we're better. What is that thing that you want that feels so far off, that feels like society says is not possible for you? Or what do you feel is too foreign to you, that is too far outside of your grasp? But when Seth asks me, at the end of Beloved, it's a real movement toward a recognition of self-regard. But the answer to her question seemed to me to come or be available a generation or two later, when the possibility of personal freedom and interior imaginative freedom, not political or economic freedom, those were still distant, although there had been some changes, could be engaged. So it seemed to me that while the history, the data of traditional historians both documented and denied this change in Black life and in the culture, the information available to me in the cultural signs suggested that there were alterations in the formulations and the sources of self-regard. music, its lyrics, its performers held the first signs for me of this change in the culture. Movement, migration from rural areas to urban ones held other kinds of information. The literature, the language, the custom, the posture, all of this was what I would look at. It seemed to me that the 20s, with its sort of nascent and overwhelming jazz idiom, was as distant as it was precisely of this change. That period, the Jazz Age, was a period when Black people placed an indelible hand of agency on the cultural scene. And this agency, unremarked in economic and political terms, informs my project. And all the terms I cited earlier, defiance, violence, sensuality, freedom, intricacy, invention, and improvisation, were intimated in the major figuration of that term. Subjective, demanding, deeply personal love relationships, the one place African Americans could command and surrender by choice. The one place African Americans could command and surrender by choice. Where they did not marry who was chosen for them, or who lived down the road, or who was next door. Where they could effect the widest possible choice by deciding to fall in love, claiming another as the beloved. Not because of filial blood relationships or proximity, but precisely because it was ad hoc and accidental and fated, but not predictable. So like not calculated, right? Not like Game of Thrones energy, but based on destiny, right? The idea that we can control it. I really too think, now I'm kind of seeing why this was given to us, right? Like, who do we belong to? And it being the one place where Black folks could command and surrender by choice. And I wonder how exacting that control is. I've been writing in my newsletter a lot about disposability and relating. My friend Sonia just made a really beautiful email newsletter entry, and also a post on social media about longevity of relationships and having these beautiful like 60-year relationships because of a practice of love, right? And compassion and intentionality in these relationships, communal relationships. And I wonder if the increase, right, or the ways in which we opt for cutoffs, right? Not because of harm and abuse that is necessary in preservation, but the reasons why we may be so flippant about it is because it's the one place where we feel like we have control. So those are just some things that I'm thinking about. And this assertiveness, this creative agency, seemed to be most clear in the music, the style, the language of that post-Reconstruction era that represented both transition and transformation. You know, like life lived in flour sacking or plain dull cotton gives you a hunger, a desperation for color and patterns and powerful primary colors in the same way that hundreds of years of being mated off or ordered whom to marry, of needing permission to join with another, of having to take these extraordinary drastic measures to keep a family together and to behave like a family, and all of this under the greatest stress with so little evidence that anything would ever change. You could get slaves to do anything at all, bear anything, if you gave them any hope that they could keep their children. They'd do anything. Every impulse, every gesture, everything they did was to maintain their families. Well, under those historical pressures, the desire for choice in partners, the desire for romantic love, operate as a place, a space, a way for individual reclamation of the self. That is a part, maybe the largest part, certainly an important part of the reconstruction of identity, part of the me so tentatively articulated in Beloved. That's what she needs to discover. It will account for the satisfaction in the blues lyric and the blues phrase, whether or not, and mostly not, the relationship flourishes. They're usually, you know, somebody's gone and not coming back, or some terrible thing has happened and you'll never see this person again. Whether or not the affection is returned, whether or not the loved one reciprocated, the arter, the lover, the singer has achieved something, accomplished something in the act of being in love. And it is impossible to hear that sort of blues cry without acknowledging in it the defiance, the grandeur, the agency that frequently belies the wail of disappointed love. It may be through that agency an even more powerful assertiveness of what we call jazz, which uses those gestures that compromise becomes reconciliation. It is also the way in which imagination fosters real possibilities. You can't imagine it, you can't have it. And a third thing grows, where despair may have been, or even where the past lay whole and wouldn't let go. And it is this third thing that jazz creates, and that creates in these spaces and intersections of race and gender, that interests me and that informed and propelled the writing of this book called Jazz. I want to read just a page or two, which is kind of an illustration of the gesture, of that gesture of choice and love. It's nice when grown people whisper to each other under the covers. Their ecstasy is more leaf sigh than bray, and the body is vehicle, not the point. They reach, grown people, for something beyond, way beyond, and way, way down underneath tissue. They are remembering while they whisper the carnival dolls they won and the Baltimore boats they never sailed on. The pears they let hang on the limb because if they plucked them, they would be gone from there, and who else would see the ripeness if they took it away for themselves? How could anybody passing by see them and imagine for themselves what the flavor would be like? Breathing and murmuring under covers, both of them have washed and hung out on the line in a bed they chose together and kept together. Never mind, one leg was propped on a 1916 dictionary, and the mattress curved like a preacher's palm asking for a witness in his name's sake, enclosed them each and every night and muffled their whispering, old-time love. They are under the covers because they don't have time to look at themselves anymore. There is no stud's eye, no chippy glance to undo them. They are inward toward the other, bound and joined by carnival dolls and the steamers that sailed from ports they never saw. That is what is beneath their undercover whispers. But there's another part, not so secret. The part that touches fingers when one passes the cup and saucer to the other. The part that closes her neckline snap while waiting for the trolley and brushes lint from his blue serge suit when they come out of the movie house into the sunlight. I envy them their public love. I myself have only known it in secret, shared it in secret, and longed to show it. To be able to say out loud what they have no need to say at all, that I have loved only you, surrendered my whole self recklessly to you and nobody else, that I want you to love me back and show it to me, that I love the way you hold me, how close you let me be to you. I like your fingers on and on, lifting, turning. I have watched your face for a long time now and missed your eyes when you went away from me, talking to you and hearing you answer. That's the kick. Then it shifts from the writing to the essay and says, but I can't say that out loud. I can't tell anyone that I've been waiting for this all my life and that being chosen to wait is the reason I can. If I were able, I'd say it. Say, make me, remake me. You are free to do it and I am free to let you because look where your hands are now. And so that is our bibliomancy reading for this time, this shift into reclaiming what the heart desires, and a call towards imagination, right? A call towards desire, and not even necessarily what Tony is writing about was her desire, but finding and searching what actually is our desire and the ways that we can remake ourselves in relationships that we value and that we call in and that we cherish and that we are respected in. That was the first thing that was coming up for me when I downloaded this reading, and I'm trying to see if I'm going to get some cards, but I do think that it's a little bit of a, as I'll start to get cards for our extended message. When is the first sign of disrespect and how do you handle it? That was one of the things. Medicine, right? For like mending the heart after seasons of shifts in intimacies. Like, was there disrespect from yourself or this person? And like, how do we atone for that or account for it? And why do we stay when we see those things? Those are some things that I, were coming to me as I was beginning. But let's see if there's any more before we shift it to the extended. Two of Coins. And the Three of Coins is at the bottom. And so right now, what I feel is that during this retrograde time, we are choosing and feeling like so many things are at in the balance. But what can we give over to the others that love us? What can make this easier to hold? What makes these decisions easier in the direction that we go in? By where we are supported, by where we are respected, by where we are regarded. The Moon, confirming that these are full moon messages. And Little Staff. Now the bottom of the deck is the Three of Swords. So it's not just our physical, material, tangible burdens of the works of our hands, of our ideas, of our projects, but it is also our emotions. Who can carry water for us? Whose water can we carry? What is our capacity? Because Mercury retrograding in Virgo talked a lot about capacity. Now Mercury in Leo is talking about desire. And so what is it that we need to bring into balance so that we can actually handle the things that we have desires for? Where do we need to mature? A Little Staff. Where do we need to grow? And the full moon is putting a spotlight on the places where we need to better use our imagination and better reach for resourcing so that we can pursue the desires of our heart. So to continue to come and get guidance and coaching, I invite you to become a client through the guidance membership available on my page. I'm also available for one-to-one sessions. You can find out all of that information on my website, and I invite you to attend our free event where fire meets the earth on Sunday, August the 25th. I love you.